hello and welcome to episode number 468 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I am Carlos, and in this week's packed show, one couple are horrified about a small check-in fee with a certain airline we all know and love. Armando takes a look at home flight safety, and also Nev is taking a deep dive, into a first-class seat on BA, but it's not all plain sailing, unfortunately. In the military news this week, Armando is bringing us some stories all about the boom during the Northern Lighting this month. And also, he's got stories all about the museum, the National Museum of the USAF, that welcomes their PT-17 to their collection. So, joining me across the village over in a rather fragrant part of Suffolk in England is, of course, Matt Smith.
Really? I don't. It's lovely here. There's no smell here.
I think it's because literally I'm the top end of the village, so I'm right near the fields.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that they're not putting potpourri. Thank you, John.
Referring to what John was saying, I've spent enough time in your office. I came and visit you in your office on Monday, Tuesday, whenever it was. Tuesday, I think it was.
Tuesday, I think it was. Yeah.
Honestly, he didn't stop bottom burping. Honestly, it was awful.
It's my office.
Yeah, so
It's my office.
Standards, dear boy, standards.
Well, I'm still settling into my new job. And
that's
all exciting.
Rubbish.
It's all exciting.
Absolutely rubbish excuse.
And also joining us from across the fields, the rivers, and the sunshine-covered glens of the UK, it's Neville Bounds.
Yes, hello everybody. Well, here we are again. It's Friday night, and it's been a very hectic week for me, driving every day, all sorts of places. I've gone through more AdBlue this week than diesel, I think. It's been one of those hectic times, and lots of stationary traffic around our office in Brighton as well, which has been particularly boring. But nonetheless, I have made it for another episode. Don't forget, we've got a competition, of course, later on. A new book, thanks to our chums at Grub Street Publishing. So I'll be asking it another question later on today.
Oh, like that. Very exciting.
Yes, very exciting indeed. We haven't got Armando with us this week, unfortunately, on the show. But don't panic, because not only has Armando put together some great military stuff this week, he's also sent us in a little sort of kind of greetings video. So, Matt, hit the button.
Hey guys, sorry I can't be on the show today. It's been a hectic week. Just got home from recurrent training. I was in Wichita, Kansas at Flight Safety International, which was one of the best training facilities I've ever been to. It was my second time there, and those guys just do such a really good job of putting you in a full motion simulator in all the challenging situations that you hopefully will never see, but really great training. It's always great to go in there. I don't think anybody ever says that it's fun to go into the simulator, but actually I have a little bit of fun going in there, mostly because I'm no longer Part 135, which means I'm not a charter operator. I'm not working for a charter operator, and I'm certainly not Part 121, which is an airline level training. But as a Part 91 owner-operator type training, it's more of a what they used to call progressive. It's now an incremental check ride, which means there's no actual check ride that you have to sweat. It's just imagine a matrix at the beginning of the training week, and you do a combination of ground school and simulator training, where as you go through the week, they just check the boxes and say, yes, I'm able to see that. However, it was just much less stressful, which was great. And I got to see Nick Camacho from APG. So really good week of training, really good to get back into the simulator, do some of the things that don't usually get to do, and again, hopefully don't ever see. But back home this week, and then just kind of back to the regular grind. Again, sorry I can't be on the show, but I've been gone for a week, and we've got some family activities that we're planning for this Friday afternoon. Of course, when the show records, it is Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. On the East Coast. Either way, you guys have fun, and I'll check in with you a little bit later in the show with some military stories.
Thanks for that, Armando, as always. And I know there's quite a few people in the chat room shed a tear when they find out that Armando can't join us on the show, including Jonathan Warner, who I know is in the chat room this evening. But don't panic. Like I said, there is military this week. You know, obviously Nev's made sure of that. He did make sure that was added into the show this week.
He won't be there for long, by the way, Mr. Warner, because I've just seen him at the top of a set of stairs. He just sent me a picture of top of a set of stairs.
Oh, that was yesterday, wasn't it? When he filmed the B.
No. He's on.
He's still there.
He's now jumping on a TUI plane to come home.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I think
he was filming some bombers the other day.
Yes.
By the way, I think if we can't have Armando live, I don't think we should have any military section.
Right.
If you can't do it live, we shouldn't be doing it.
I'm going to sort of perhaps suggest that as we do have him on tape, you know, I'm going to disagree with that.
No, we should honour him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it gives us time to go and get a scotch.
Absolutely. And on the plus side, Nev, it's being read by somebody who knows what he's talking about.
I'm very glad about that.
That's what we love him.
We did well together, you and I, didn't we? Because it was just me and Nev holding the fort last week, and we had to do a pre-record for that one. And
yes, I was surprised we did as well as we did, actually, under the circumstances. No, it was good. It was good.
We did military and everything. It was awesome.
I know. Yes, I was definitely well outside of my comfort zone.
I really need to listen back to this show from last week. I haven't done yet. I need to do it.
Yeah, indeed.
But also this week, as always, we've got our illustrious producer at large, John. He's in our ear again this week. It's nice to have him back in our lug holes this week. So welcome back, John. It's been a while. He's working. He's been working. He's been working hard. Bless him. Earning those millions of pounds. Well done, John. And also joining us.
Millions of pounds.
Also joining us.
You know what he does for a living, right?
I know what he does.
Just checking.
He's fine. He's fine. He's also joining us this week. Another member of our production team. Nick's on the show this week. Hello, Nick. How are you with the red muff?
Hey there, Carlos. How are you doing? It's good to be back. It feels like it's been ages, and I must admit I listened to the pre-recorded show the other day and thoroughly enjoyed it, and thought Nev embraced the military with real gusto.
Didn't he do well?
Does.
Yeah, absolutely. Very enthusiastic he was, yes.
Always enthusiastic. We're going to say hello to everyone who's joined us in the chat room this evening.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. I just got to say, this is the first time that I've been able to see everybody on the Zoom call. As well, we've had a little bit of an upgrade here in the studio, and it's the first time I've been able to see everybody's faces when you say something that either slightly offends, causes... It's just the most amazing, honestly, I can literally see the visual size every time. Oh dear, never mind.
Anyway, all of John's eye rolls, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, welcome.
I noticed that happens a lot. I didn't realise that happened quite so much.
A few new faces in the chat room.
Sorry, guys. I'll behave.
Top of the list. Who was in the chat room about 6 hours before we started. It was Hobby Time. Hello to you. Richard Adams was also in there early. And Mazouz as well. Hello to you. Captain Cruz is also in there. Hello to see you. Guys to see you. Oscar, he's in there. One of our youngest listeners. Hello, Oscar. Hope you're well. He's very much into his aviation, is Oscar. There he is on the screen there. Andy Wilson, he's in a hotel somewhere, living it up. With putting everything on, I think we can say tab.
Manchester's big enough. I think we can say Manchester. I don't think
he's in a hotel in Manchester.
I don't think that gives away much.
Living it up. Everything on the company credit card. He's going crazy. He's going crazy. We've also got Dirk in there as well. Hello to you, Dirk. Lee Davies is in there. Good to see you back in there as well. Dr. Steph. Hello, Dr. Steph. She's in there.
Steph. Oh my goodness me.
She's nearly at the end of her shift. She's only got another few patients to see.
I haven't seen or heard Dr. Steph for way too long.
Well, she's in there now.
Excellent. Hello,
ask her nicely. She'll send you a video.
Okay.
Our main man, Micah, is also in there wielding the blue spanner of doom. Bill, he's in there as well. Good to see you in there, Bill. Scrolling down, John is also in. Obviously, he's our master of all things podcasting. Jonathan Warner, good to see you in there. Military man, that'll be up very soon. Don't panic, Mr. Warner. Mash is also in there. Hello to you. Good to see you in there. We scroll down, make sure I don't miss anyone. David Michael.
Hello.
David Michael from Adelaide.
Adelaide, oh my goodness me. What time is it in Adelaide?
Well, he's on his holidays in Greece.
Oh, in Greece.
Before heading home to Australia.
Right.
Thought he'd jump in and say hello.
Hello.
Before heading out to dinner. Good to see you, David.
Oh, okay. Oh, you were in the chat room last week, John is telling us in our ears, which is amazing. Very good.
Good to see you in there, David. Hello.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't forget, if you are listening to our splendid voices on an audio podcast, we are on YouTube every week. Don't forget to search for us on there, Plain Talking UK. Click the subscribe and the bell icon to be notified when we are going live. And then you will get to see how stunningly crisp Nev's shirt is every week.
Nev's shirt is stunningly crisp. There's no two ways about that.
This week it should be out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we've got commercial news to get through and tons more, plus our caption this as well this week, which has proved quite popular. So if all the team is ready,
oh yes,
let's go.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So the first story this week comes to us from CNBC.com. Virgin Galactic launching first tourist flight to space. Actually, Nev, I was surprised you didn't get on that first flight.
I wasn't asked.
What with your privileges? Virgin Galactic flew its second commercial space flight Thursday, carrying its first private paying tourists. Called Galactic 2, the flight launched from Spaceport America in New Mexico. The company's spacecraft was flown by a pair of pilots, CJ Sturkow and Kelly Latimer, and carried 4 other people, including Virgin Galactic Chief Astronaut Instructor Beith Moses, to oversee the mission from inside the cabin, and a trio of passengers. The 3 customers on board Galactic 2 were British former Olympian John Goodwin and 2 passengers from the Caribbean, Kesha Schaff and Anastasia Mayers. Is that, blimey, these names, who won their seats through a charity fundraising, drawing by non-profit Space for Humanity. The flight took customers past an altitude of 80 kilometers. Shouldn't that be 80,000 kilometers? I don't know. Perhaps it is 80 kilometers. Or 262,000 feet, which is what the US recognizes as the boundary of space. The spacecraft returned to land at Spaceport America, completing the flight. And the mission is Virgin Galactic's 7th space flight to date and its 3rd since May. The company aims to fly spacecraft VSS Unity at a rate of once a month and is developing a fleet of spacecraft called Delta Class, planned to debut in 2026 to fly at a weekly rate. The company completed its first commercial space flight, the Galactic 1 mission, in June, carrying members of the Italian Air Forces and Italy's National Research Council. Virgin Galactic has a backlog of around, check this out, 800 passengers. Many of those tickets were sold at prices between £200 and £250,000 over a decade ago. But the company reopened ticket sales 2 years ago with pricing beginning at, here we go, save your money, check down that sofa, £450,000 per seat, which I'm pretty sure Nev's probably got that much in air miles with BA, so he should be able to get a flight.
Oh,
now, the only thing that I'm so gutted about, is that they didn't name the spacecraft Enterprise. Just saying. But the shuttle was called Enterprise. They could have reused the name Enterprise, or they could have used Voyager. Or, mind you, that was a shuttle as well, wasn't it? No? Wasn't it a shuttle? Or wasn't it? No. Well, I just think it would have been, quite nice to, because we all know that William Shatner, didn't he? He went up, was it, which one was that in? With Musk, I think, William Shatner, yeah.
That was the Amazon one, I think. He went on the Jeff Bezos rocket, the Blue Origin.
Yes, thanks, John. Exactly. But no, are you going to be saving up for this, Nev? I'm guessing not.
Well, I should have started some decades ago, shouldn't I? Really? Yeah, I think obviously the money involved is substantial, isn't it? And the waiting list they'll never get to the end of the waiting list, will they? With that number of people. Yeah.
I'm hoping they are, because I bought some shares in them.
Ah, okay.
They're not doing very well.
Everyone, is that an issue in the chat room, Matt? Everyone's saying they can't hear you.
Oh, I'll try that, shall I? That might work. Let's try that.
There we go. Matt's back. Don't panic. Just thought I'd let you know.
Never mind. Yes.
Our chat room are there to help with our audio issues every time. Anyway, Matt,
I didn't say anything interesting. It's fine. It's not a problem.
Now you've got your audio back, Matt.
Right.
The next story is yours, and it's all about a rather cheap Ryanair flight.
Indeed, and I'm sitting on the fence to which you might be surprised with this. All could be revealed as I read.
Not the one I just painted, I hope.
No, absolutely not. No, it'll be a bit sticky, for want of a better word. bbc.co.uk/news is the website. The headline is "Couple horrified at £110 Ryanair check-in fee." An elderly couple said that they were horrified after being charged £110 by Ryanair to print their tickets at the airport. The Jaffs from Ealing were flying from Stansted Airport to Bergerac, France on Friday. Mrs. Jaff, 79, said that she found Ryanair's website very confusing, but despite this, she thought she had successfully managed to print their tickets the day before the flight. It was only when she got to the airport that she realised she'd accidentally printed the wrong tickets. Ruth, 79, and Peter, 80, told the BBC that they had to pay airport check-in fees after mistakenly downloading their return tickets instead of their outgoing ones. She was charged £55 per person to print the boarding cards at the Ryanair customer service desk. She added, "It wasn't easy for her husband to walk from one bit of the airport to the other. I was quite flustered and upset." Their daughter took to X, or Twitter, as I still insist on calling it, the next day. £110 for 2 pieces of paper, which took 1 minute. "Shame on you," she said. She said that her parents had also had to pay an extra fee to sit next to each other, as her father has a disability. It sparked a flurry of social media complaints about the airline's fees. Her post has gone viral, saying having been viewed more than 13 million times, with many social media users complaining of the high cost of printing boarding passes at the airport and other surprise fees. One user also pointed out that it would have been cheaper to go to the nearest stationery shop, purchase a printer, and print the tickets themselves. Well, I don't agree with that, but it would be a very rubbish printer, that's all I'm saying. The couple have complained to Ryanair, but said that they don't expect to get anything back. "I think they'll say it's in the small print and it's our fault," which it was, but it was a genuine mistake, Mrs. Jaff said. "It's deeply unfair." Ryanair did respond in a statement saying, in accordance with Ryanair's terms and conditions, these passengers agreed to at the time of booking. They failed to check in online before arriving at Stansted Airport on the 11th of August, despite receiving an email reminder on the 10th of August to check in online. These passengers were correctly charged the airport check-in fee, £55 per passenger. All passengers travelling with Ryanair agree to check in online before arriving at their departure airport, and all passengers are sent an email or text message reminding them to do so 24 hours before departure. We regret that these passengers ignored their email reminder and failed to check in online. Now, whilst, as you would expect, the Ryanair social media team have been their usual flippant selves, shall we say, in terms of what's happened here, I am a little bit on Ryanair's side on this one, which may be a bit of a surprise to everyone for me to say that.
After this, I'll join you.
Yeah, Captain Cruz is saying instead of complaining afterwards, that daughter should have assisted her elderly parents in preparation before the flight. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And that's really where I'm going with this. I fully accept that you know, I'm very lucky. And Nev, you're the same as me. Carlos, Nick, and John. Everybody who's on the call, everybody in the chat room. You know, the fact that you're watching this on YouTube. Let's be honest. If you're watching the show live or you're downloading it as a podcast, suggests that you're a little bit sort of tech savvy, and that's fine. It is in the terms and conditions, and I do absolutely agree. I do think that the daughter perhaps could have been a little bit more helpful in sorting this out. Also, the other thing I would say is that it does mention in there that father was struggling with the walk and all that kind of thing, and because he's disabled, they weren't sat next to each other. Now, me personally, I think they've also failed in the fact that they didn't inform Ryanair that they required special assistance. So from my perspective, and we've done this with Mum. We use the special assistance whenever we fly. It is absolutely brilliant. One of the benefits of that is that you are put together as a result of that, because you've got the person and their carer and all that kind of thing. And I fully accept that the two people here, age 79 and 80, perhaps weren't very, very savvy on the situation, but they should, there is clearly somebody there who could have helped them and didn't. Now, whether that's because they didn't tell them that there was that they had a problem, or they were confused about anything or whatever, I don't know. But special assistance is there for a reason. It doesn't cost you anything to do special assistance with any airline. Any airline, the service is completely free. So I'm unusually siding with Ryanair on this one, actually.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. I think I'd like to have a word with the daughter as well. Mainly saying, why don't you just send your parents £110 as a treat from you, so that they're not distressed by it? Why would you go onto Twitter to go shame on you, Ryanair, and all the rest of it? I just think that is just so appalling and unnecessary, irrespective of whose fault it might have been. Talk about adding fuel to the fire. Well, she has certainly done that when she could have just taken the heat out of everything at all. Perhaps afterwards, privately helping her parents send Ryanair a letter to say, look, I'm really sorry, this is what happened, blah blah blah. What do you think you could do? They might have even said, look, we'll meet you halfway, or something like that. But now she's gone
public with it
on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days. Then the airline are going to go, sorry, love, that's these terms and conditions,
Yeah, indeed. I get why people do it, Nev. I mean, you've done it, haven't you? You've had to reach out on social media for something that's not gone according to plan, because you're not getting responses, if you like, from the usual channels. So I get that social media has its place as a way of getting action from someone, but I do think, given the short timescales that we're talking about here, if you have sent Ryanair a letter, you certainly haven't given them time to respond to it. And I as you say, I suspect if this had been done a little bit behind closed doors, they might have been a little more willing to sort of, meet halfway. Having said that, Ryanair really doesn't care about its negative social media. It always I think their default is any publicity is good publicity as far as they're concerned. So maybe it wouldn't have made a difference. I don't know. Masha is saying, business idea: set up an internet cafe and copy shop next to the airport. I like that. Yeah. Take up one of the units first. I think it's a brilliant idea. Masha, I'll sign up. I'll put a $5 in. That's a brilliant idea. Let's make that happen. But yeah, that's my 10 penneth. As I say, normally I would, any excuse to bash Ryanair, but I actually do feel a bit for them. And as I say, my frustration and anger, to be honest with you, is with the daughter rather than the parents. I get why the parents, sort of struggled and stuff. I agree, the website is very confusing. I nearly did something very similar with EasyJet. They're all as bad in terms of getting the tickets. The
problem is, it's so easy to harm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just people, but businesses and stuff. Social media now is become such a way of.
I don't think Ryanair will be worried about.
Well, not Ryanair, but it is.
I think they'll be fine. Don't you worry.
Social media has become, become a way of people venting out really heavily against, other people.
Oh, and social media has its place, absolutely. I mean,
yeah, for our show.
Well, exactly. But also, I mean, all right. So you use train companies as an example. Train companies are notoriously bad at getting back to you, and quite often. Trains and buses, a quick post on social media, and you'll usually get the a response pretty quickly. So it absolutely has its place. But if anybody who's ever followed Ryanair's social media will know that they really won't care, and they
very,
will give
very, very good. Their Instagram account is worth a look.
It's
really
quite,
funny.
it's quite sharp, isn't it? Yeah. Nev, I've got a task tweets for you. Yeah, absolutely. Ryanair's top tweets, please, if I could leave you to do do that. Either on Insta
if they're not juicy enough, I'll just make one up. So.
Well, absolutely. And they'll probably stand by it, to be fair. Or they might use it in their own next time round. Who knows? But there we go. Anyway, I could go on and on. Let's not.
If Ryanair's legal department was listening, I was just joking.
Yeah, of course, right.
Anyway. They can't touch you, Nev. You're a BA gold man. Well. Nev, you've got the next story. And this is quite interesting. I heard this earlier, and there's a audio recording of this actually on VAS Aviation, I think.
Yeah, and when I saw this story, I thought, oh, not another go-around story. Here we go again. But actually, this is pretty serious, I would say. It's on simpleflying.com, and it says that the FAA is investigating a near collision between a Southwest Airlines Boeing 737 and a Cessna Citation business jet in San Diego. The air traffic controller cleared the Cessna to land on a runway that was occupied by the Southwest 737. The Boeing jet was instructed to taxi onto the runway when the business jet flew about 100 feet, which is about 35 metres, over the 737. On Friday, August the 11th, that was last Friday, the air traffic controller at San Diego International Airport cleared the Citation to land on the runway just before midday Pacific Daylight Time. Meanwhile, Southwest Airlines Flight 2493 was instructed to taxi onto a runway and hold short for departure instructions. The automated ground surveillance system picked up on the potential for collision and alerted the controller. The controller immediately directed the Cessna to discontinue the landing procedure, thereby avoiding an oncoming catastrophe. Pilots of the business jet managed to abort just meters above the awaiting Boeing 737. No injuries were reported on either plane, and the Cessna Citation landed safely moments later, whereas the Southwest flight continued its journey to San Jose as planned. The FAA and the NTSB are investigating the matter, and the FAA is sending a team of experts to the air traffic control facility at San Diego. The NTSB personnel are looking into the incident on their end, which is one of 6 near-collision runway incursions since January. Southwest Airlines says it is assisting the authorities in investigating the matter to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future. A representative from Southwest commented, "Our aircraft departed without event, and the flight operated normally with a safe landing in San Jose as scheduled." In February, a similar near collision occurred in Austin, Texas, involving a Southwest Airlines Boeing 737 and a FedEx cargo plane. The events unfolded in poor visibility conditions where the air traffic controller cleared the FedEx, which was a Boeing 767 cargo machine, to land, whilst the Southwest jet was instructed to taxi onto the runway for departure. The airport's surface detection equipment determined the mishap and issued an alert to the air traffic controller. According to a statement by the FAA, the pilot of the FedEx airplane discontinued the landing and initiated a climb-out. Whilst the controller immediately instructed the FedEx Boeing 767 to perform a go-around, it came within 115 feet, 35 metres again, of the Southwest jet. The NTSB is investigating the Austin incident and providing recommendations for enforced safety, particularly during peak travel times. Or low visibility, in that case.
Yes.
Indeed. Yes. Trying to, I'm not an air traffic controller, clearly.
No.
But there's some questions to be asked here on both sides.
These aren't what's worrying me now, and I don't know. And again, I don't know if there's this whole scenario where because one happened, the media are now super sensitive to it, and is the number? Is it genuinely that more of these incidences are taking place, or is it just because the media has got savvy to them and is now watching out for them, and so it looks like there's more when it's actually at the same level it has been for all this time? Do you know what I mean?
Well, it might be that, mightn't it? You don't actually know, and we'll never know what the real story is until you look back at all the official documentation and the incidents that have been publicised. Because all this will be in an NTSB report. So you'll be able to look at it for yourself. But nonetheless, there's some questionable ATC activity there, definitely on both cases, I say. But thank goodness. I mean, at the end of the day, this is what gets me about, and I know this is a controversial subject, but this is what I would call conditional landing clearance that you get, or absolute landing clearance from US controllers when you're sort of 4 or 5 aircraft out, and so you're only told to go around if something happens on the runway or an aircraft hasn't cleared. Whereas in European airspace and the UK, you don't get a landing clearance until you are cleared to land. There are some exceptions to that, I think, when you're given a land after clearance, if the weather's good enough and there's plenty of spacing between the aircraft and people can see what's going on. But I think in these situations here, there's some definite questions to be asked.
I think we all know that. I think, well, most of us know that. I've heard it on many podcasts and stuff, aviation podcasts, that Southwest pilots are renowned for not wanting to hang around too long, especially when it comes to taxiing and stuff, Nev, when they're moving around. Southwest,
they're not shy about.
They generally don't want to hang around too long.
Yeah, they've got lots of sectors to meet, no doubt, in their schedule. I think that's part of the problem.
Southwest is an incredibly busy. I mean, busy airline. They are as busy as, Southwest are kind of like the Ryanair of the US, really, to be fair.
Yeah.
They're a huge airline, But
at the end of the day, it's all about safety, isn't it? Everybody says that's the number one priority. And yes, I know there's a timetable involved, but that cannot be at the expense of safety, either from the ATC point of view or from the flight deck crew point of view. So.
But then Southwest do make some of the best and most funniest videos on YouTube with some of their crew.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I did read somewhere recently that air traffic control was very, very under-resourced in the United States. I can't remember if that referred to, I believe, on the East Coast somewhere. They were operating at well below what their target levels should have been. So whether or not that's a resourcing issue there that needs to be addressed.
Indeed. So can I just point out that it seems to be a drinking show again this evening. I know members of the team are having a few bevies today, and I know that one of our listeners who's in the chat room currently, Dirk, I know that Dirk is enjoying a very, very nice drink this evening. I think he's got is it a German beer there? I think he's got in hand. Looks very nice, I must say. I do like a nice German beer. Yes, there we go. I do. I do. And obviously Nick's got a beverage on this evening. Matt's got his sparkling drink. I've got a nice little Glenfiddich 12-year-old single malt scotch.
As you do, right.
And Nev, what are you sporting this evening, Nev?
Half a glass of water.
Oh dear.
Anyway, moving on to the.
So there's a little bit. They've got a little video here to play here. Now, it's. I'm just going to hit the play on this. So this is the video that Carlos was talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Now I assume we'll have some ATC.
Tower 564 Hotel Victor on the GPS Yankee runway 27.
Number 564 Hotel Victor Limber Tower. Traffic in position was 260 at 10 runway 27. Clear to land.
All right, clear to land 27 for Hotel Victor.
Southwest 2493 Limber Tower, traffic 5 mile final, winds 250 at 11, runway 27, line up and wait.
27 left wait, Southwest 2493.
Southwest 2895, turn left at Bravo 8, taxi spot 1, contact ramp tower 129.77, good day.
Hey, Bravo 8, taxi to spot 1 and over to ramp tower for Delta 2895.
Limber Tower, Alaska 772, 9.5 back, RMP Mike 27.
Alaska 7782 Limber Tower, winds 250 at 10, runway 27, clear to land.
Clear to land 27, Alaska 772. That's on verify.
0 Alpha Lindbergh Tower, you'll be number 4 for departure. I do have an amendment to your altitude. Advise ready to copy.
Outside block.
November 2110 Alpha Lindbergh Tower, I have an amendment to your departure. Advise ready to copy.
Ready to copy, 10 Alpha.
I'll verify 4 Hotel Victor, still clear to land.
Fly heading 275, correction, just fly the Polish missed approach.
Say again?
Citation 4 Victor Hotel, go around, fly the published missed approach.
All right, going around 4 Hotel Victor. Tower Southwest 2493.
Southwest 2493, Lindbergh Tower, exit the runway, right turn at Charlie 2, all the way on to Charlie, please.
Oh, wow.
Roger. And reasoning?
There's traffic on a 2-mile final behind you.
Ouch.
Okay, we are exiting on the, taking the right exit, Charlie 2, Southwest 2493.
Citation 4 Victor Hotel, contact Christian Swim my frequency for a moment.
All right, we'll stay with you.
So it still landed,
Southwest
despite being
2493,
told
one
to go
able hold short
round.
runway 27.
No, the Citation done a go around. I think he went, and obviously the Southwest had to vacate quickly.
It's just
Victor, contact SoCal
horrific,
119.6.
I think. The way that ATC have handled all of that, they're giving departure instructions, which is just ridiculous, when there's clearly aircraft on short final. And then, having had the Citation go around, they tell the Southwest 737 to vacate the runway. It's his runway. You know, they should be telling the aircraft behind to go around. Just
completely
really
agree
bad
with you,
handling there. And obviously, yeah, I'm armchair ATC criticizer at this moment, but I think there's some questions there. Definitely, very, very, poorly dealt with, I thought.
Now, interestingly, in the chat room here, so Armando, although he's not on the show, he is actually listening to us by the pool, as you do, of course, as only Armando does, I should say. And he's saying that there's a statistic that close calls are way more likely the longer a plane is in position on the runway, which I guess kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's, they're not designed to sit there and wait for long periods of time, are they? But as you say, there's some very questionable calls here.
I'm curious about the line-up and wait instruction that the Southwest were given. I'd always thought that maybe that referred to sort of holding short. I don't know whether there's the difference there between holding short, whereby you don't actually enter the runway, or line up and wait, where you do enter the runway and then you effectively hold at the end of the runway prior to your takeoff.
Yeah, I mean, they're two very unambiguous statements, aren't they, really? Hold short is holding short at Alpha 1 or whatever the taxiway is, or line up and wait.
So it was very definitely given the clearance to line up and wait.
Yeah, but this, clear to land business, I'm sorry, it's just... in my book, completely wrong. When there's clearly, even in sequence coming down the ILS or with the aircraft still on the runway.
So do you think your take on it, Nev, is that the controller was expecting the Southwest to depart prior to the Citation landing?
I don't think that could have ever happened, to be honest with you. There would never have been enough time between the Southwest taking off and the Citation to land, let alone the wake turbulence category, because I presume the Citation jet is a business jet is smaller than a 737, and they would have been right in their wake as well as the 737 was bowling along the runway. So there was, not proper wake turbulence separation either, I would have thought. Very, very, I mean, thank goodness that nothing happened, but that was an unnecessary situation there, I would say.
So Armando is saying in our group chat here, is saying, actually, I don't agree with our procedure of clearing planes to land when it's not clear. Line up and wait is on the runway, he's saying. That is apparently standard practice. And also, sometimes 3 planes can be cleared to land in advance.
Captain Cruz in the chat room actually says she forgot the Southwest departure clearance while all this was going on. Seems ATC are a bit out of practice for peak traffic situations after 2+ years of lower traffic.
I mean,
COVID situation.
I think the thing for me, the thing that worries me the most about this, and Nick, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this one. My really bad gut feeling on this is they're not going to do something about this until something disastrous happens.
Well, I mean, all parts of aviation are into risk management, aren't they? And that's what the recurrent training's all about, whether you're in the tower, whether you're at the ground controller, whether you're on the flight deck, whether you're on the cabin, in the cabin crew, whatever part of aviation you work in the mission critical parts of it, there's recurrent training and lessons to be learned. And this will be an example, which I'm sure they'll bring up on the next course, about how not to do it. That's as simple as that. And luckily, in most situations within aviation, not all, I concede, but most situations, lessons are learned and things are improved, but often not before there's a loss of life or other problems. And I think that's one thing to bear in mind.
And that's the bit that's worrying me the most. Just pop that message back up, please, if you wouldn't mind, John. The one before, there's two there, I think, from Andy, as you were just showing. With the low cloud base, they wouldn't have been able to see the aircraft on the final from the tower. And also, in reference to Charles de Gaulle Airport, he's saying that's a nightmare for clearing as many aircraft land like this.
I want to throw a cat amongst the pigeons, if I may.
No, absolutely not.
I'm wondering at this point whether or not there might be an argument for taking away human decision-making with the use of AI. So, for example, in a situation where you've got...
Anyway, it's been a lovely 10 years, and thank you very much.
You've got a decision-making process that has to occur, whereby human fallibility can enter the equation. So can we take that human fallibility away by replacing it with AI?
So weirdly, I despite being a big lover of tech, Nick, actually my take on that is the exact opposite of that. One of the things, I love my technology, and I'll be honest with you, I've been using AI most of this week, actually. The Bing search engine has got a really good AI that's built into it. I know I'm praising Bing. I can't believe those words have just fallen out of my mouth. But with the project that I've been working on this week, the Bing AI engine has been absolutely phenomenal, and it's done a really good job. But actually, I do feel the problem with AI, and it is, more flexible than it has been in a long, long time, but it will never, ever be a substitute for somebody... Okay, I'm going to be a bit biased here. Obviously, we're big fans of dear Mr. Spink, bless him, who works obviously doing Heathrow and all that kind of thing. And I know damn well that situation would not arise while he was in the tower. And it's that kind of knowledge and experience, if you like, that an AI could never replace. So in terms of where weaknesses like this have been found, Nick, you're probably right. AI could absolutely probably have handled that situation much, much better. But I don't feel that you can ever replace the fast-thinking nature of a human in that tower. I just think it'll come up with a different. A human will always think. I think will always think a little bit more outside of the box when there's an unusual situation. I mean
certainly the digital tower that I did the filming with Pip at Heathrow now a couple of years ago, actually, there were some really interesting things which had the aircraft identifiers on them. So the ATC guys and girls were aware that it was an A320 followed by a 74 or 75 or something like that, so they could work out the the wake turbulence category properly as well, and there was automatic sort of warning if there was things that got too close together. All that I think is great, but at the end of the day, it's the folks in the tower that can see what's going on, and the boys and girls in the flight deck on the approaching aircraft. They can see that there's an aircraft on the runway, but what they don't want is a situation where that aircraft starts rolling and they're on short final, so you either get a massive wake turbulence problem or a big conflict with one aircraft going around just as another is lifting off, without a steer left or right. So yeah, lots of things there, but No, I think that these sorts of incidents are going to have to be managed at the moment in a human factors way, to work out workload levels, stress, and situational awareness.
That's not to say, obviously, that the technology will continue to improve, Nev, won't it? I mean, I fully accept that, but yeah, I don't know. I do feel that there is still a place for humans in this situation, and Dirk has a great point here. He's saying that AI doesn't have full situational awareness, and I think that's kind of where I'm getting at. That I mean, could it be taught it? That's a different sort of argument, I guess. But an AI assistant would be useful to identify where a conflict like this happens to the actual controller, and that's true. I mean,
it would augment their process, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It would make it much more, sort of manageable. I guess. I don't know. I just don't think AI is. I think AI is a good 10 years away from being ready for stuff like this. It is an amazing tool, as I say, and I've literally been using it this week. But Captain Cruz is saying.
One of my old bosses used to say, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Well, quite, indeed. Captain Cruz is saying... yeah, possibly. He's saying, imagine how far tech has come in 10 years, not to mention 20. I beg to differ. You may still witness it in your lifetime. I may well
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. The way I'm going at the moment, probably not, but...
So, moving on
to optimist. Yeah.
To the next story. We've got so much to cram in tonight, honestly. We've got a story coming up next, and obviously Armando's not with us this week, but don't panic because Armando has sent us a video, and especially for the next story, which is coming from airlinerwatch.com, and it's all about home flight safety's FAA Advocates for enhanced safety measures, all about aircraft seats.
This story from airlinerwatch.com is about the FAA advocating for some enhanced safety measures in aircraft seats. In light of some recent findings, the FAA is emphasizing the need for enhanced passenger restraints, specifically in front row seating. Studies have shown that in emergency landings, solely relying on the current lap seatbelts may lead to some severe injuries. The current FAA guidance allows for seats to be positioned away from cabin walls, letting passengers experience forward movement during accidents. Such seat configurations result in the excessive body flail phenomenon, causing significant spinal and other injuries. This comprehensive investigation was carried out by the Medical College of Wisconsin in 2016, and that revealed that the damage mechanics of traditional lap belts were not entirely understood in the past. Testing with post-mortem human surrogates, the college found that severe injuries when these test subjects were subjected to emergency landing forces. The injuries ranged from spinal cord damage to multiple rib fractures, femur breaks, which were possibly caused when the lap belt slipped beneath the pelvis. The FAA, referencing accidents like the Turkish Airlines Boeing 737-800 crash in Amsterdam and the Asiana 777 crash in San Francisco, both of those were in 2009, they highlighted that passengers with unrestrained movements actually experienced spinal injuries. In contrast, those with back support from seatbacks were unaffected. This discrepancy has prompted the FAA to reconsider their stance on current seat configurations, especially those using only lap belts. Now, to prevent severe injuries during emergency landings, the FAA is actually updating its guidelines. Now, these directives would necessitate supporting passengers' upper bodies with added safety mechanisms. As the aviation community awaits the release of these new regulations, the FAA is ardently encouraging airlines to voluntarily integrate safety augmentations like shoulder harnesses and airbags. Now, in general aviation, there was actually a published article a couple years ago outlining how much more effective shoulder harnesses are with restraining occupants in an aircraft mishap or accident. That was one of the very first things that I did with my personal aircraft was I installed shoulder harnesses, both in the front and the back. And recently I've been seeing more and more, just on this trip, coming home, I noticed that the bulkhead seats were all were equipped with airbag seat belts. So it looks like the airlines are taking note of this, and anything to make passenger safety a priority, I support, and I hope to see more in the aviation community.
Thanks for that, Armando. As always, good to have you sending in videos. It always helps to give us info that we might not already know.
Yeah,
and it's also an important thing as well, I suppose. Seat configurations, and obviously, it's lap belts. I mean, I wear one as a belt myself, personally here, and I have one as an actual belt. But you think when you look back, lap belts have been the same for since year dot, haven't they? Lap belts on aircraft.
Certainly since the sort of 70s and 80s, haven't they?
They haven't changed much at all. Yeah, but
I've always been quite surprised, that they didn't move to like the 3-point seat belt, that it's always remained a lap.
Yeah. Actually, John just asks, Nev, have you flown the BA? We have the
yes, the club suite. Yes, I have.
Yeah.
On the A. What was that? It's 787 actually, and then I think I'm right in saying that Finnair A350 has got them as well, and they're actually quite comfortable, I must say. But because we're always used to, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Back in the day, just before inertia real seatbelts came into cars, people said, well, people will never wear them because they're uncomfortable. And now, you couldn't think of getting in something without it. And I think the thing with obviously aviation, they've had seatbelts for a very, very long time, and not wearing a seatbelt was never an option. No, I do quite like the 3-point harness that the BA and Finnair have got.
It was quite interesting actually when I went out in June to the States with American, and I had the airbag on the bottom part of the seatbelt which I wore in business. A big fat sort of airbag pouch just on your front. I don't know if you had that before. It's not too bad actually, John. John just asked if it's comfortable. It's not too intrusive. It's only a small pack, and it kind of sits sort of in front of your belly as such on the business class seats.
Good luck with that in my case.
But it's not too bad. It's not too intrusive, no. But before we move on to the next story, just a quick update. This came to us on airlive.net, breaking news this evening. It's been confirmed today that the British Airways Boeing 747-400, the Golf Bravo Yankee Golf Charlie, which those of you might have known was painted in the BOAC colours to celebrate the 100 years of BA, that is now actually being scrapped. That aircraft has been confirmed as they are now going to be scrapping that aircraft, which I think will upset a few people, Nev?
Yeah, I was really sad about that. That livery is, means a great deal to a lot of people, and it was a real shame that's happened. But well, I guess these things are inevitable in a sense, aren't they, really? But obviously the most valuable parts of these things are engines and, and landing gear and that kind of thing. But it's a real shame, real pity.
Yeah. So those guys over at Plane Reclaimers over at St Athan, they are going to be scrapping this. So
if we might pay you some tail trim from a 7.4 in your bedroom.
Yes, quite, absolutely.
Oh, dear. Don't give me ideas, guys. Don't give me ideas. Anyway, moving on. Next story. Can't put my credit card away. The Axios.com. This one is Congress may let jet owners like Elon Musk block their flight info. Elon Musk and other private jet owners may soon be able to stop the public from learning about their flights thanks to FAA reauthorization bill passed recently by the House. Such information has proven useful to journalists and other researchers, but plane owners, including Musk, have argued that it could pose a security risk. Private plane information has long been public record, but until the relatively recent advent online of flight trackers such as Radar, Flight Radar 24, planefinder.net, it was cumbersome for most people to learn who owned that plane or where it had flown. The FAA has already had some options for private plane owners who want to block flight information from being shared with trackers. Many owners also use LLCs and other corporate ownership structures to shield identities. A provision tucked inside the FAA reauthorization bill would require the agency to establish a process to let jet owners request to keep their aircraft registration numbers and other information private. The 5-year FAA reauthorization passed by the House by an overwhelming 351 to 69 votes back in July, and now must be reconciled with the Senate before heading to President Biden's desk for his signature. It said there has been a long bipartisan support for protecting everyone's fundamental right to privacy, given the very significant potential threats to security posed by real-time broadcasting of citizens' movements. Dan Hubbard, a spokesperson for the National Business Aviation Association, told Axios. He said, an understanding that you shouldn't have to surrender basic security protections because you board an aircraft is reflected in this legislation, as it has repeatedly been reflected in previous bills. Musk last year threatened to sue creator of a Twitter account that tracked his private jet's activities and permanently suspend the account. SpaceX has previously asked the FAA to block flight tracking data for Musk's private jet, and Musk is far from alone in his attempts to prevent his flight activity from being tracked. Former President Trump's plane is enrolled in the FAA's Limiting Aircraft Data Display Program, or LADD, which restricts the display of certain information about the aircraft. Taylor Swift and Kyle Jenner planes are also enrolled in this as well. The FAA has also granted over 300 temporary aircraft registration numbers that allow participants to fly anonymously through the Privacy ICAO Aircraft Address Program, also known as PIA, according to Insider. I suppose if you want to remain anonymous, I suppose it's a good idea if you are a celebrity. But obviously, these aircraft will still be obviously transmitting a transponder code through the airwaves. Otherwise, it would be hard to control these aircraft. But I see the point. Security and all that as it is these days.
Nick's just more excited that we've been able to finally sort of shoehorn in a picture of
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, absolutely.
There she is,
yes.
Very chuffed. Yeah, very chuffed he is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been editing the show notes for some months now, and I finally jumped on my chance.
This is the highlight. Absolutely.
Get the
Fair
Swiftie
enough.
in there.
Yeah, get the old Swiftie. Yeah, nice one. Yeah.
So I mean, on a serious note, so obviously.
Wait. What? Serious note?
Well, don't be serious, Nick. Honestly.
Briefly.
Okay. All right.
Obviously, this would mean that some of the aircraft wouldn't show up on platforms like Flight Radar 24. I'm thinking about the ADS-B database, because I think that often tends to show stuff that isn't on Flight Radar. I don't know if anyone has got any.
I don't know.
Knowledge about.
Yeah, Nick's right. You can ADS-B. The website ADS-B Exchange. Yeah. You can. It does tend to show a bit more information than what Flight Radar 24 does, including a lot of military stuff that doesn't always show up on Flight Radar 24.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the only thing is you can't. There's no app for ADS-B Exchange, but you can save it on your phone as a kind of shortcut.
Well, you can now, especially on your fabulous new iPhone.
Here we go.
I've been waiting for this.
Moving on to the next story.
No,
Nev?
I think we should chop a story.
Yeah, I think so.
In order to discuss your new telephone.
We have the okay from producer Don. This is great news. Absolutely.
So tell us all about it, Carlos. You just started a new job this week. What sort of phone?
Nev's got a story from theguardian.com.
Well, we'll come back to this.
All right. Okay. I started my new job this week, and my company, for some bizarre reason,
because they're a quality and reliable phone. Yes,
because they are. And can I just say they are I can say this. They are an American-owned company. They have given me an iPhone, and
what's that got to do with the price of quality? I don't understand.
And it took me about 5 hours to set the blooming thing up, and oh blimey, God!
I don't know what you were doing with it, because it's like my last iPhone took me about 2 minutes to set up, and that included transferring the data across.
I fully intend on using my new work phone as something to hold the office door open as a door wedge. Thank you.
Yeah. John's just saying he's got 0.5 terabytes worth of data that he transferred across to his new phone. Took him 35 seconds. Just saying.
Anyway.
So you're doing it wrong. That's essentially what's
I've got a headache just thinking about my work phone.
Lovely. What you need is lessons from my... Carlos is a good PR for any company. Absolutely, yeah. He's never got anything negative to say about anyone, ever. Anyway, Nev...
Nev, we've got a story next, and it's from theguardian.com, and it's about ash, which is what my phone will be when I throw it on a barbecue.
Oi!
Well, you know, it's an interesting story. I think that your phone was an interesting story. I mean, not
I think so, very much so. I think we should come back to it later.
It's on theguardian.com, and it says that flights serving the eastern Sicilian city of Catania were halted after an eruption from nearby Mount Etna, local authorities said, bringing fresh troubles to the crisis-plagued Italian airport. The 3,330-metre high volcano burst into action overnight on Sunday, firing lava and ash high over the Mediterranean island. The lava flow subsided before dawn, but ash was still coming from one of the craters. Flights to and from Catania, a popular tourist destination, were set to remain suspended until 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning, the operator said in a statement, dashing hopes that they could resume on Monday night. Passengers were advised to check with airlines before heading to the airport on Tuesday, and incoming flights were diverted to other airports in Sicily on Monday. The cancellations come at the peak of the summer holiday season in Italy, whilst Tuesday it was a public holiday. Catania Mayor Enrico Trantino banned the use of motorcycles and bicycles in the city for 48 hours because many streets were covered in ash, and ordered cars to drive no faster than 30 kilometres per hour, 19 miles per hour. The ash can quickly become slippery on roads and increase the risk of accidents. The latest cancellations at Catania Airport, which attracts more arrivals than the island's capital, Palermo, came a month after a fire at a terminal building led to weeks of disruption for passengers. The eruption was singled last week when Etna emitted gas rings. The extremely rare phenomenon occurs when gas bubbles are pushed through a narrow shaft in the volcano, which causes a rotational movement of the margins of the puff of gas, making it acquire a ring shape. They are propelled hundreds of meters into the air. Smoke rings composed of a mixture of smoke, steam and other gases are expelled at high speed as the rarely seen weird phenomenon appears above Etna before it erupts. Gosh, that's quite a big moment, isn't it?
There's some stunning photos attached with it, actually.
Yeah, do you remember, Nev? I have just stuck a couple of pictures actually in the drive, Matt. I don't know whether you'll get a chance to put them in.
Oh,
do you remember back to remember BA 009?
I do.
Yeah,
yes.
BA 009. That was that 747 that flew into that ash cloud.
Flame out, yes.
A four-engine flame out on a 747 that happened, and that was that was back in
1982.
1982, that's it. Thanks, Nick. That was, BA 009, 1982.
I'm scared that you were able to retain that, just retrieve that information with no effort.
It's in the show notes.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. Oh, okay.
I wrote it last night.
Yes, Speedbird 9, that was. Obviously, the aircraft landed fine, but it had some serious damage to the engines there. There's a picture there that Matt's popped on the screen of one of the was it the internal? I think that's one of the internal guide vanes. And there's the crew. That was, I think it was Eric. Was it Moody?
Eric Moody was the captain.
Eric Moody. That's it. Eric Moody was the captain on that one.
Barry Townley Freeman was the first.
Not on a 757, though.
And I can't remember the name of the flight, the first officer off the top of my head. So. But we'll be coming back to this shot later on, by the way.
But they managed to land that aircraft. Actually, they restarted the engines. I think all four. They got all four restarted on.
I think they ended up landing on 3 in the end.
Yeah,
they did get all 4 restarted, but one was rough running again, so they shut it down.
Yeah.
But what the biggest challenge whilst landing was the actual visibility out of the windscreen, because the effect of the volcanic ash has actually shot blasted the windscreen, so it became opaque. So it was very, very difficult to judge height on finals. But the guys got it down. Unbelievable. But this is why when that Icelandic volcano went up some time ago, that's why all of the airspace was shut around that area, and that was a huge problem for US flights coming across, Scandinavian flights, and all the rest of it. But there's always, when there's volcanic ash around, even though they are perhaps a little less cautious as they were, because they now begin to understand that a bit better. I think there's I think from a passenger point of view, that's the ultimate problem, isn't it, for safety for them?
Yeah. So story number 8 this week is from Armando. It's all about Dare Partners and their Recreational Aviation Foundation.
I thought this story was actually pretty cool. This is the French aircraft manufacturer DAR. They're partnering up with the Recreational Aviation Foundation to help maintain backcountry airstrips. Now, DAR's Kodiak 100 and Kodiak 900 are touted by company officials as the ultimate getaway vehicles, with the capability of opening backcountry airfields for outdoor adventures, as well as helping agencies and organizations that protect the environment. Now, a couple years ago now, I think we had Ryan on, the missionary pilot from, I believe he's in Papua New Guinea, or was it Indonesia? But either way, he's got an amazing YouTube channel where you can see the true capabilities of the Kodiak aircraft and the importance that it provides to some of these remote airstrips, not just in the South Pacific, but really all over the world. In this spirit, the company DAR has backed the Recreational Aviation Foundation, of which I am a part of, for many years. And in 2023, they actually stepped up its support by providing a Kodiak 900 to assist the U.S. Forest Service personnel in accessing 2 isolated grass strips in the mountains of southeast Idaho. Pilots and employees of DAR's Kodiak Aircraft Company joined officials from the U.S. Forest Service for the airlift of building materials and support equipment to 2 U.S. Forest Service grass airstrips. Those were Moose Creek and Shearer. Now, these airstrips traditionally are very difficult to reach with high mountains, and the nearest of roads being more than 19 miles away, normally requiring pack animals for a resupply of any kind, according to the officials from the company. Now, in the past, the the U.S. Forest Service Rangers were based at these locations, but after years of budget constraints, they created challenges for the government agency to actually maintain these remote airstrips. Using the Kodiak 900, the U.S. Forest Service was able to accomplish maintenance for these airstrips and their structures, along with other support duties, according to DAR. The Recreational Aviation Foundation is a foundation, an organization of volunteers, mostly backcountry pilots, but there's all kinds of support roles. And their mission is actually to preserve access to these remote backcountry airstrips. Now, this is all over the U.S. and Alaska. The purpose of the organization of the RAF, is to really create partnerships between local, state, and federal organizations like the U.S. Forest Service, and create a partnership between them and general aviation backcountry airstrip users. It's a mutually beneficial relationship where the volunteers from the Recreational Aviation Foundation often go out and help maintain these airstrips. They'll take their own aircraft, usually Cubs and 180s and things like that. But really, you don't need a whole lot of equipment to get out there and maintain these airstrips. This is probably real similar to what you saw Carlos and I fly in our Cub when we went up to Virginia. These are remote country airstrips, but in providing the ability for general aviation users to use them and access them, and you can go camping, and they serve this dual purpose of they're excellent staging bases when there is a need for the U.S. Forest Service or maybe even local authorities to use them for helicopters, as a fire base, as an incident command base for any reason. And it's just a great partnership between our RAF and the U.S. Forest Service. So go check out their website, the Recreational Aviation Foundation. But very cool that the company DAR is actually supporting
DAR. DAR is a pirate airline.
Right. Okay. That's no. Just no. Great story, though.
Thanks.
Great. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Armando. Yes, I know. Thanks, John. John's in it. Honestly, sometimes I wish we could plumb John's voice through the show so you could hear his name, but
no.
Maybe perhaps we could use a bit of AI to disguise his voice. Perhaps.
Yeah, we could use AI. AI John.
Producer John says he is looking into that. It sounds like some more technology that's going to make my head hurt.
It's worth pointing out just quickly, guys. On a serious note, do you remember we had the missionary pilot on?
Yes.
Well,
yes. Great.
He actually brilliant. His YouTube channel is fantastic. He flies the Kodiak as well. It's which Armando's been talking about on here. It's well worth of it. He's still flying, actually. He's still doing YouTube videos in the Kodiak, so it's well worth the missionary bush pilot. Missionary bush pilot is who he's on YouTube. Yeah. We'll try and get him on again, because he's still doing a lot of flying. He was going to stop at one point, but I think he's still doing lots of flying still. So we'll try and get him back on. But yeah, now. Moving on to the next story, and I have been looking forward to this story tonight, and I'm going to have to pour myself another scotch because I'm just out here. So, Nev, take it away.
When I first saw this story, I assumed that everybody was talking about me for reasons which may become obvious. It's on airlive.net, and it says, overweight passenger gets stuck in first class seat on a British Airways flight. Now, I do concede I am carrying a bit too much timber for this time of year, but I don't think I was quite at this stage. But in a bizarre and unexpected event, a British Airways flight from Lagos, Nigeria to London on July the 29th of this year witnessed an incident that left both passengers and crew astonished. An overweight passenger found himself trapped in a first-class seat on the Boeing 777-300ER during the 6-hour journey. Seated in the capacious 1 Alpha first-class seat.
What seat, Nev?
Well, I don't have to repeat it, do I? Known for its luxurious amenities, including 78 inches of legroom and a generous seat width of 22 inches, the passenger unknowingly became ensnared by the seat's structure.
Now, that's not a word that's used enough in everyday language.
I've not used that word
ensnared is a
since 1979, and that was we can't talk about that anyway.
Quite fair enough.
But as the situation proved more challenging than anticipated, the decision was made to remove the door of the suite housing the first-class seat and employ a hoist mechanism to carefully disentangle the passengers from his snug but inconvenient position in seat 1 Alpha. The passenger was eventually freed reportedly 3 hours after landing. An airline spokesman revealed the passenger was mortified. It's astonishing because the seats are the most spacious available. It was as embarrassing as it can get for him, especially when the door in the cabin had to be removed. Oh, there's just so much material here. Most of it is unbroadcastable, unfortunately. But I must say, now, on the one hand, I can understand why this could happen, because with these suites that BA have got, you kind of need to work out how you're going to get in and how you're going to get out of them, because they're not particularly easy to do.
They're sort of all right once you're in, are they? Is that the sort of...
Yes. Yeah. What a moment. But yeah, a 3-hour job to get him out of that suite after they'd landed.
What I'm confused about, and perhaps somebody can try and sort of help me get my head round this, though, is how did he, if it was that tight and snug, how did he get in there in the first place?
It's a bit like putting a book into a jiffy bag with padding in it, isn't it? It goes in quite nicely, but when it's delivered to somebody, you try and get it out of it. It's really difficult. As some of our listeners
I'm not going to lie, Nev.
I've got books from us.
I've got quite the image in my head now. Thanks for that.
And also maybe with, changes in temperature and humidity and, I don't know. But what a state of affairs, honestly. But
quite.
I hope BA didn't. Well, I mean, that might have. Obviously, 3 hours after landing, yes, it wouldn't have affected the return leg. I don't.
Let's hope not. No.
But, depending how long the aircraft was on the ground afterwards, but
I wonder if
3 hours
tried...
actually, 3 hours after landing does eat into the next sector probably of that. That so there we are.
Just wondering if they might have tried any lubrication.
Yeah, that's a different kind of podcast, Nick. Which we're not authorised to.
Oh my! Oh dear! I can't believe I'm saying this on our own podcast here. Family show, guys. Family show.
Anyway. We need an NPE from seat 1A of a 777-300ER, Nev.
Why? What are you suggesting?
Well, I wish I could afford the ticket price. But,
okay. Blag it, Nev. Blag it.
Well, that would. Well, I've got a BA blagging story later on my own, which I may discuss after the military.
Well, that's exciting. Okay. Right, moving on then, quickly.
Moving on. No, Armando,
we need to make time for this. I'm sorry, we can't let this
Armando
one go.
has got the next story, and he sent us a video in for this because he's an absolute legend as always. And Armando sent us in a video, and it's all from yahoo.com. And it's all about Wheels Up aircraft management business.
Now, this next story is regarding the company Wheels Up. It's from multiple sources. We've talked about Wheels Up on the show. They are one of the largest private jet provider, private transport provider companies in the U.S. with a large fleet of Nextent jets and Beechcraft King Airs. Now, just this week, Wheels Up reported more second quarter losses, and then a couple days ago, Delta Airlines said that it was actually leading a $500 million investment into the company after the company Wheels Up reported declining revenues and cash, with Reuters actually warning that the company could seek bankruptcy protection in its next IRS filing. Now, just a couple days ago, Delta Airlines announced that it was actually leading this major investment into, like I said, the third largest private jet operator based on charter and fractional ownership hours. Now, it did announce that this was a non-binding agreement for $500 million to Wheels Up that included funds contributed by Delta Airlines, as well as CK Opportunities Fund, which is co-managed by affiliates of Certares. Delta Airlines, if you remember, actually sold off their private jets, Delta private jets, to Wheels Up back in 2020. It was actually the largest stakeholder with almost a 20% stake prior to the news of the investment, and that Delta Airlines and the other investors will now control 95% of the Wheels Up company. Now, Delta's Chief Financial Officer Dan Janke replaces Ravi Takran as the Wheels Up chairman as part of this deal, and Todd Smith will continue as their Chief Financial Officer and their interim CEO. Both of those gentlemen joined Wheels Up in 2022, and both of them actually were longtime veterans of GE and Delta. But since May, I believe when we talked about it on the show, both CNBC, Wall Street Journal, and many other financial companies had reported that basically Wheels Up was on the verge of bankruptcy. Most importantly, for Wheels Up members who would have been unsecured creditors into bankruptcy, they're going to be able to keep their fund credits and continue to fly under the current program with the rules and pricing. Now, in the latest financials, as this is all kind of coming out, it showed that Wheels Up members had actually prepaid for $828 million for future flights. Since 2020, the other two other top 20 private jet operators, JetSuite and JetIt, had actually both collapsed. And we did talk about JetIt because they were the largest user of Honda jets. Wheels Up, with this cash infusion from Delta Airlines, the Wheels Up members can actually now take this 828 total, million, and they can actually use them to buy tickets on Delta Airlines. Additionally, they can earn miles and status in Delta Airlines Sky Miles loyalty program, bringing to the airline some highly sought after, what they called high yield travelers. Now, similarly, as part of this deal, Wheels Up were also, in addition to being a charter and a fractional ownership company, they were actually an aircraft management company, meaning that a private aircraft owner, a jet owner, could put the aircraft under management from Wheels Up. Well, as part of this whole thing, a company called Airshare, it's a pretty big aircraft management company here in the U.S., announced that it had signed a letter of intent to purchase the Wheels Up aircraft management business. Now, once this is all signed, the deal is expected to close the third quarter, which we're in. And of course, it's subject to all the approvals, government approvals, and closing conditions. Wheels Up current chairman of operations, Dave Holtz, said that the company is actually looking forward to closely working with Airshare through the process as a proven operator with a strong record of success in the aircraft management space. Now, Airshare is actually based in Overland Park, Kansas. It's one of the fastest growing companies in private aviation. Over the past 23 years, Airshare has offered a full suite of private aviation solutions, including their revolutionary days-based fractional ownership and Embark jet cards, aircraft management, charter services, and third-party maintenance. Airshare has significantly expanded its geographic footprint due to customer demand, including a recent expansion into Chicago and South Florida. Now, with this potential acquisition from Wheels Up, Airshare would have aircraft management customers nationwide, setting the stage for even faster growth in aircraft management, fractional and charter programs, which is, of course, aligning with the company's long-term plans. On our corporate aviation special, we talked a little bit about how all of this works. There are different operating regulations. There are different ways to own aircraft. If you want to buy a Global or a Hawker or a Learjet or anything like that, you can own it outright. You can own it and then have somebody manage it. You can own it and then put it under charter while you still have exclusive use to it, but then you can put it under a charter business where your aircraft gets leased out, but you have access to other aircraft, depending on your mission needs. So maybe you own a Learjet, but you want to get to London, so you can actually use some of your credit to charter a Global or a Gulfstream to get to London or get to Singapore. There's all kinds of different ways in the business aviation industry. This part of aviation is actually pretty convoluted. It can be pretty convoluted. Wheels Up, again, just being one of the largest companies in this space, them almost going under would have been pretty catastrophic, both in the industry, both to the pilots and all the support personnel, operations personnel. So getting this cash infusion from Delta Airlines is pretty significant and keeping this company around. So we'll still see their very significant, remarkable paint scheme that they have. They go look it up, but usually all aircraft are white with a big blue stripe and it just says up on the tail. So it looks like, well, we may see that. Maybe we'll just start seeing some Delta Tridents on the back of some business aircraft.
Love that.
Thanks for that, Armando. Now, I'm guessing, listening to Armando and obviously reading the story that we've got here in front of us, I'm thinking that this is very similar to NetJets that we have here, obviously, in Europe. So where you can, if you are of that kind of league where you can afford to call on a jet to take you from A to B, like this Airshare is kind of the main US version of kind of NetJets, I would say, on this. But it must be nice, though, to be able to have that kind of option if you had the money to, like for me and you, Matt, if me and you wanted to go up to Edinburgh, say, on a flight, we're not limited, but we are limited in regards to, we can fly from Stansted or from Norwich at a very big premium to fly up to Edinburgh. But you can call on it. But we can call on a company like NetJets or in the US Airshare to supply a jet to us at an airport of our choosing to fly to where we want to go. So
they could potentially, essentially, go to they could go to Norwich Airport and pick us up from there, for example.
We could say we want to go to Edinburgh, and they'd fly jet into Norwich from me and you. We'd hop on board and go up to there and.
Now, just to interrupt proceedings ever so slightly, I know we're tight on time, but somebody who's supposed to be getting on an aeroplane and going home, who is not, and is watching us from an airport floor at the moment, it has to be said. Poor Mr. Warner is currently watching us on his tablet, bless him, well done for that. He's currently sat on an airport floor because apparently, I won't use the language he's used, that he sat on the floor. He's not pleased about it. Stupid delay apparently because crew that are on the flight are not available at the moment, so he's waiting for crew to arrive.
Just as a point of order, actually, I should be getting an additional appearance fee for that picture.
Quite. Yes, always a concern. Yeah.
And you can still see how crisp Nev's shirt is, even on that picture-in-picture.
Yes, quite. Yeah.
So, moving on, next part of the show, it's all about the Caption This Just for Fun, the segment we run each week on the show. We pop a picture up on our Facebook page on a Wednesday, and we pop a picture up for you to comment on. This week, the picture that we actually put on there was supplied by our very own Armando this week, and it's a military-based picture. Now, we left you to leave us your wittiest comments on here, and now, Nev, I'm not going to ask you to describe this picture because I know, obviously, you are way too in-depth in your military knowledge, but for those of you listening, this is a picture of what I can only describe as a kind of a movable platform on the ground with an A-10 tank buster upside down on top to look like a weapons platform, I would say. Now, we had some interested parties on there this week, so we'll kick things off. Nev, do you want to take the first one?
Yes, I will, yeah. Well, there's a whole selection of comments on this one, actually. And John Luke says, filming begins on the US Air Force sequel to Iron Eagle, taking a lead from Pete Mitchell. I was 5 feet away, inverted.
And Sturman, our very own Sturman, says satellite navigation upgrade.
Melissa says, Nan, you said you knew how to park this thing.
Leanne, from the Kitchen Disco era, I might add, Matt,
my goodness.
says Thunderbirds are not go.
Somebody called Sue Bounds, I don't know who she is.
Heard that name somewhere before, I don't know what.
It's the new Cirque du Soleil act.
Who's
going to be funny?
Who's this next one, Nick?
Yeah, just some funny guy called Nick Codling.
Never heard of him.
Should probably kick him out. In Armando's latest flying adventure, he found a new way to retrieve lost change.
Very good. Paul says the latest device to get the money from our pilot for his round of beverages.
Oh dear.
Sean says Australian Top Gun filming begins.
That's outrageous. That's outrageous. On behalf of everyone, I apologise to our
Grant. You know, Grant McCarran is listening to this. He's thinking, "What's this?"
Fuming, he is absolutely fuming. Yeah.
Have you got the next one? Sean. Mark says, "I will just leave it here until PTUK take their pictures." Yes, Jonathan Warner would be there.
Yeah, literally just done that for our purposes, essentially. Is that what we're saying? Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
And Richard King says, Australian Flight Simulator. Lots of references to
I don't know why I'm finding that so funny. I'm so sorry.
Chris Mitchell says, don't know if that was the gun or if I've just filled my pants.
Oh, dear.
Oh.
Family show, ladies and gentlemen.
Family show. Have a look at the chat room, because I know the chat room does like to make a comment on these particular pictures. We've got Dirk S. Honestly, Dirk. Dirk says, Gemma, I replaced our garden fountain. Richard Adams says, well, you did say that the Warthog needed a gun turret. Yes, very good. Mr. Warner says the A10 rodeo went down a storm at wings over Michigan. Very good. I'd like to see someone ride the A10. What else we got here? Captain Ridiculous Wits says this is not sunny side up. Mark says the A10 was capable to kick your butt at any angle. Mikey, new face in the chat room, says wheels up. Very good, Mikey. Richard Adams, not quite the radar-guided missile the US Air Force had in mind when they ordered. Hobby Time, he goes with a bit of an Australian sort of kick with. He says, it flew from a land down under. And
we know a song about that, don't we, children?
I know. Yeah. Captain Ridiculous Wits says, sun tanning my belly. And we'll finish off with Mark Priestley, who says, was in a rush to deliver the dark ops.
Deliver it in the dark ops, yes.
Yes,
indeed.
yes.
See what he did there. Yeah.
Thanks to everyone who has contributed this week on our Caption This Just for Fun picture. There'll be another one, hopefully, on our Facebook social medias next Wednesday. So
if Carlos remembers, that is. Yeah.
If I remember, hopefully next week. So, yeah, we'll make sure you get your comments in on that on our Facebook page. Right, up next then, it is the military segment. So Nev is going to go off and grab himself a Pinot Grigio. And Matt, if you'd like to hit the button.
Here we go.
Blast up bogeys 13550, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay, 108 bogeys.
Thank you, Carlos, for that story. Now, this next one is from warbirdnews.com. Really cool museum that I've talked about on the show. The National Museum of the United States Air Force is welcoming a brand new PT-17 to its collection. It's essentially a Boeing Stearman. The museum actually welcomed the aircraft after a ceremonial transfer at Joint Base Andrews that coincided with the 75th anniversary of the integration of the U.S. Armed Forces. Now, this aircraft is only one of two existing PT-17s that were used to train the Tuskegee Airmen in World War II. Obviously, the Tuskegee Airmen was they were the first black pilots to fly in the U.S. military. That goes back to 1941 when the U.S. Army Air Corps announced the formation of its first ever black combat unit, the 99th Pursuit Squadron. Obviously, there's been some some movies made about this unit also. Now, those pilots trained at Motton Field and Tuskegee Army Airfield in Tuskegee, Alabama. Before closing in 1946, there was almost 1,000 Tuskegee Airmen that received their primary flight training at Motton Field. Now, this particular aircraft was acquired through the aircraft exchange with the Collins Foundation American Heritage Museum in Hudson, Massachusetts. They transferred it to the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force. And while they were doing that, Rob Collins, their executive director, said that it was a little emotional to leave the aircraft behind. The National Museum of the U.S. Air Force is such a spectacular museum. This aircraft deserves to be on the national stage. Going through the museum and seeing the crowds that are here, I hope this aircraft will inspire everyone who comes through. It's in the right location. It needs to be here. Now, among the people who flew this aircraft were James Hyatt, who was an instructor, and then Cadet Kermit Baylor. Hyatt was a notable flight instructor who trained both fighter and bomber pilots, and Baylor, following his military service, actually went on to become a civil rights activist, a lawyer, and a public servant in both state and national government. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it 100 times, the National Museum of the United States Air Force and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio, probably one of the best museums, aviation museums in the world. And if anybody ever gets a chance to go there, please do so. It's also the birthplace of the Wright brothers, so you might as well make a whole aviation trip out of it.
I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. There's been an incident. That's the best way to describe it. There's been an incident on air. And we've officially lost Nev and or Carlos. I can only apologise. Yes, indeed. It's Are you able to recover, Carlos, or do I need to just?
I'm here.
Summarize?
Don't panic,
right,
Matt.
okay.
I'm here. Don't panic.
Very good.
Right,
yes.
hold on.
Honestly, sometimes if you could hear, dear listener, some of the conversations that take place while we're not on air. I mean, honestly.
Nev, stop it, because you're putting me off. No,
dear.
that was very, very. Honestly, that's terrible. That's for later on. I've got to try and compose
I don't
myself
understand what's happening this evening.
Oh,
Nick, you're right. I don't know what's going on tonight at all. It's just like...
So the next story on the military segment comes to us from, not going to look at Nev, the wbay.com, and military aircraft bring the boom during northern lightning this month. Fighter jets will be zooming and sonic booming over the northeast Wisconsin as the state hosts a 2-week military exercise. He's looking all serious now. Northern lightning brings the Air Force, National Guard, Marine and Navy units from Arizona, Florida, Minnesota, Ohio and Virginia together at Volk Field, northwest of the Wisconsin Dells. From August the 7th to 18th of August, they'll participate in combat readiness exercises involving more than 60 aircraft and 1,000 service members. In addition, representatives from allied countries are coming to observe the exercises. And in the viewing area, the flight zone includes Brown, Calmet, Dodge, Fond du Lac, Green Lake, Outagami? What a weird name is that? Shiboyang, Wapak. Now I can see why Armando gave me this story. The busiest times will be between 8:30 in the morning and 5:30 in the evening. Volk Field is one of the 4 combat readiness training areas in the US. It's 9,000-foot runway built exclusively for military use. It can accommodate most military aircraft and is permitted up to 200 miles of training airspace to an altitude of 50,000 feet. Blimey. During previous Northern Lightning exercises, we were told they trained for adversary aircraft, electronic jamming and surface-to-air threats. 3 F-117 jets have been deployed to Duluth Air Force National Guard Base, Minnesota, to take part in Northern Lightning 2023. Northern Lightning is one of 7 Air National Guard joint accredited exercises held at a combat readiness training center. From August the 7th to the 18th, 2023, Volk Field Combat Readiness Training Center in Wisconsin is hosting most of the 60 aircraft and 1,000 service members taking part in the combat readiness exercise. It's bringing together the U.S. Air Force, National Guard, Marine and Navy units from Arizona, Florida, Minnesota, Ohio, Virginia to provide a tactical level joint training environment. Northern Lightning emphasizes air interdiction and 4th and 5th generation fighter interdiction while focusing specifically on air unit crew training objectives to prepare for participating units for both the air, state and federal missions, says the Wisconsin National Guard. The focus of the drills is opposed to air interdiction and close air support against a highly integrated air defense system composed of relative surface-to-air and air-to-air threats in contested and degraded operational environments, with offensive and defensive counter-air and suppression and destruction of enemy air defences and close air support missions flown by the participating assets. Interestingly, among them there are also 3 F-117s, the Black Jets from Tonopah Test Range Airfield, now not deployed to Volk Airfield, but are operating at Duluth Air National Guard Base in Minnesota, where they've been arrived on the 4th of August. The F-117s are supporting the exercise over Wisconsin, flying daily in pairs using their very well-known radio call sign, Night. Photographer Zach P. Nipper got a close look at the iconic jets as they returned from their Northern Lightning mission on August the 8th this year. It's no longer a secret that the 15 years after being officially retired, the F-117s are being actively used, not only for training purposes as adversary aircraft and cruise missile surrogates, but also for research, development, test and evaluation. They said we've already reported in detail about the recent participation in exercise Northern Edge in Alaska, where they deployed. They were deployed to Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, along with some really interesting test beds. What is clear is that after the secretly operating, they had been secretly operating for several years, their official retirement in 2008, the stealth jets are now publicly supporting the most important exercises in the US. They said that we don't know the exact role that the F-117s played in the exercise, but if they were called in, their somewhat vintage stealth capabilities were needed to make the scenario more challenging for other players. I know someone who would appreciate that would be Jonathan Warner. I know that he has said in the chat room, he's just commented in the chat room, actually, he would give he would give a lot to see the F-117s. So if anyone does have the opportunity to go and see an F-117, just get in contact with us. We'll pass those details on to Jonathan Warner, as I'm sure he will very much appreciate that. So,
I'm sure.
Yeah. So next up, Armando has got a video for us in the military segment this week. And this one comes to us from the warbirdsnews.com, all about the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force that's welcoming a PT-17 to its collection.
This next military story is from Task and Purpose. It's a popular military website. Just a couple months ago in June, the U.S. military commemorated the 79th anniversary of D-Day with some airdrops, some flyovers, and gatherings of veterans there in Normandy. I have some friends still at RAF Mildenhall who got to participate in that. It was always such a unique event that the Special Operations Group for us got a chance to participate in. Really humbling experience to get down there to Normandy and still, meet with people from so many nations to commemorate such a notable event in history, specifically, in the turning point of World War II. So now, just 2 months after all those celebrations, the Air Force is actually getting a head start on the celebrations for next year. 6 C-130J Hercules are getting a fresh coat of paint. They're from Ramstein Air Base in Germany. They're now sporting those large alternating black and white stripes, echoing the same patterns that were used on World War II aircraft for the invasion of Normandy. The C-130Js are from the 37th Airlift Squadron. They're going to take part in a flyover of Normandy next June as part of the 80th anniversary celebrations. So nearly 80 years ago, that paint job had a clear purpose during the war, and specifically that invasion. The stripes were assigned to any Allied forces on the ground to not fire on them or mistake them for German warplanes. One C-47 Skytrain known as Whiskey 7 was actually sporting the invasion stripes when it became the first troop carrier to cross into German lines during D-Day. Now, it's unclear why the Air Force was starting the work so early. Again, the 80th anniversary is not for another 10 months, but the U.S. military is already planning its events tied to next year's commemoration. Overall plans haven't been revealed quite yet, but the fresh paint on the planes appears to be one of the first steps in the preparation. The 86th Maintenance Squadron painted the Liberation or the Invasion stripes on those 6 airplanes and put Whiskey 7 markings on the C-130Js as well. The Air Force has regularly put the Invasion stripes on different aircraft for D-Day commemorations, including this year's celebrations with fighter jets and transport aircraft, both sporting the kind of historic paint scheme. Either way, so pretty cool, and I'm still, honored to have been part of an organization that has such a rich history in helping other countries. And if anybody gets a chance to go over to Normandy for the 80th anniversary, please do so, and then send us some cool videos and pictures and let us know how it was.
Very cool.
Yeah, the PT-17 is a heck of an aircraft as well, I will say. Actually, we were lucky this week, guys, weren't we, on our group chat, that we got some really, really great videos that we sent from Armando of his flying activities with the Stearman and also his cub as well, weren't we?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, it's good to see those pictures and videos and stuff. Yeah, we are lucky to have Armando. I will just point out again, we are lucky to have Armando because we do get some very, very great videos sent to us on our group, little kind of PTK group host chat of Armando's flying adventures. It does make for entertaining viewing, I will say. Next up, avweb.com, and it's all about an ejection from a MiG-23 at the Michigan Air Show. 2 people aboard a MiG-23 fighter were slightly injured when they ejected from the Cold War fighter jet at an air show in Michigan on Sunday last week. The swing wing jet was part of the finale of the Thunder over Michigan at Willow Run Airport when the 2 punched out during a moderate turn over Belleville Lake. They ended up in the water and were rescued quickly. The aircraft crashed to the ground of an apartment building in Bellevue. Authorities said the plane wiped out some unoccupied cars in the parking lot, but there were no injuries on the ground. My word, that was incredibly lucky. The aircraft was owned by former Navy pilot Dan Filler and was based at Longview, Texas. Filler operates a museum and collects Soviet-era aircraft. He was listed as the pilot at the air show. Wayne County Airport Authority released the following statement. They said that shortly after 4 p.m. Sunday, a MiG-23 demonstration aircraft performing at the Yankee Air Museum's Thunder over Michigan Air Show crashed into the parking lot at the Waverly on Lake Apartments in Bellevue. The pilot, a backseater, successfully ejected from the aircraft before the crash, and while it did not appear they sustained any significant injuries, first responders transported the pair to a nearby hospital as a precaution. The aircraft struck unoccupied vehicles at the apartment complex parking lot, and no one at the apartment complex nor the show was injured. The FAA is investigating the crash. We haven't had a story like that in the show for a while. There is a video online that on social media. I know that we'll probably put some notes, links in that to the show notes for that video. But obviously, was a good outcome from that because they were obviously only just slightly injured, the pilots on there. So it's sad to see these jets, these Cold War era jets, obviously when this kind of thing happens. But it's always a good news to hear when the crews and the flight crew involved were escaped without very serious harm. So good on that. Now, last up on the military news this week, Armando's got a video for us, and it's all about an aircraft that we sadly said goodbye to here in the UK and the Royal Air Force a few weeks back, and it's all about the C-130.
Only got 2 videos, Carlos. I don't know where you got that from.
Story 4.
Yes, we have played it.
The C-130 story?
Yeah.
D-Day one? No, we haven't played this one.
Yeah, we have.
You sure?
Yeah, I think we played it before.
100%.
The story before last.
Yeah, it was the story before last.
Yeah, okay.
We only had 2 military videos from from Armando.
From Armando.
Yeah. The first one was, the... Tuskegee.
Because you skipped the first one, didn't you? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay,
And then,
so...
Hang on. Yeah. Okay.
Moving on to the next part of the show, and it's all about the book quiz. Time for you to win yourself a book. Nev, you set the question, didn't you, all about this, but you have got a book to give away this week, haven't you?
Oh, yes, we have. And I was just very pleased to see on my doorstep this morning a delivery from Grub Street Publishing, and it was Stanford Tuck, Hero of the Battle of Britain, written by Helen Doe. I've just had a quick flick through. It's a really interesting read about all the things that went on with this gentleman during the Battle of Britain. Anyway, this week's question is, well, we all know that Matt's favourite aircraft is the Boeing 757.
Oh, here we go.
Matt's going to bring a picture of that.
Is he?
Well.
Oh, right, okay. Is that what I was looking at earlier, was it?
So we can enjoy it.
Yeah, right.
Well, British Airways, of course, operated a fleet of these aircraft on the UK shuttle routes, which was the main capital cities, so Edinburgh, also to Glasgow and Belfast, amongst other places, and also on some medium-haul operations. I certainly went on a 757 to Stockholm, Arlanda, years ago. But the question is, although they've all retired them now, how many 757s did BA operate? How many 757s did BA operate in total? Podcast at planetalkinguk.com. Send your answer in, and next week we will draw out a winner, and we'll send you the book.
It's as easy as that. Yeah, you got the question there. And as we said, we'll have some more details on that at the end of the show, where you can send your answers into.
Supplementary competition as well here.
Oh, Nev.
Yes. Now, this is all a bit, this wasn't in the show notes, and we're doing a bit on the fly, as we say in the business here. But I was looking at the BA website the other day, and I noticed that they're offering for executive club members a training session at the BA Global Learning Academy at Heathrow. I'll just read you a little bit about it. It says, our state-of-the-art training facility doesn't just prepare our colleagues for every possible scenario, it also, for 5 lucky aviation fans, will provide an excellent and engaging day out. This month, the BA Global Learning Academy is giving away a half-day cabin crew training session at the London Heathrow Engineering Base for 5 executive club members and 1 guest each on the 18th of October 2023. Experience a range of cabins, health and safety briefings, fire training, and test out the emergency evacuation slides. Please note, attendees must be over 14 years old, fit to fly, wear flat shoes and trousers on the day, and have a valid passport to enter the building. The winners will be selected at random, and the prize draw closes at 23:59 BST on the 20th of September. So as Carlos and I are both BA Executive Club members, we are going to both enter this competition ourselves. If one of us is successful, or if both of us are successful, that'd be good, wouldn't it? But if one of us is successful, we could take a guest with us. So you would have to be available on the 18th of October 2023 at Heathrow. But of course, that depends if we win. So we'll know in about a month's time whether we've won or not. Obviously, there's going to be so many people entering this competition, but it's worth a go. So we'll see how we get on. But if one of us wins it, the guest will be one of you, dear listeners, if you can make it. But only if we win.
Only if we win, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nev has sent me the link over, so I shall be going online after we finish the show, and I'm going to be entering that competition as well. So fingers crossed, either me or Nev will possibly win that competition, and then obviously, as Nev said, one of you lovely listeners will get the chance to join me or Nev on that awesome day. Possibly. Who knows?
I'm very confused.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, fingers crossed for you both. That'll be a lot of fun, won't it?
Nev's probably got more chance than I have, because Nev is obviously like a,
No, I think it doesn't really matter what status you have as long as you're a BA exec member. So we'll have to see how we get on.
Oh.
So,
well, that'd be so good it'd be so good if one of us wins. What a awesome prize that would be for one of our listeners. Definitely, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But there we go. Let's see how we get on, and we'll report back in just over a month's time.
Fingers crossed, everyone.
So before we finish the show, obviously we need to obviously address our social media links where people can go to find out more about us on social media. So Nev, if no one knows where we are, where can they find us?
Oh, yes. Well, they should do by now. If you want to visit us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, just search the social medias.
Or X, I suppose, UK. Whatever we call it now.
Or X, yes, I know. The WhatsApp number, that hasn't changed. That's +44 757, appropriate enough, 22499166. That's +44 757 22499166. You can email the show, as we mentioned earlier, podcast@planetalkinguk.com, and the website is www.planetalkinguk.com. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and you'll get notifications when we go live. Just go to youtube.com and search for Plane Talking UK, and you can become a Patreon too. If you look on the website, you'll find ways of supporting the channel, and that helps us a great deal with media hosting costs and all the cables and all the stuff that we have to replace from time to time. So have a look at planetalkinguk.com, and all the info's on there.
There we go. And don't forget as well that caption is next Wednesday, hopefully. And also, don't forget to get your answers in for Nev's book quiz, because you can get the chance to win that awesome book. We're going to be hopefully running many more book quizzes right through, as long as we can. As long as we have books coming in, we'll give them away as prizes. So make sure you keep an eye on the show for your chance to win some of our awesome books on there. So quick round robin before we finish the show. Right, Nev, what are you doing next week?
Right, I'm on a plane, finally.
Yay!
And I'm going with Mrs. Nev to the Emerald Isle. I'm going to Dublin, in fact, just south of Dublin for a couple of days, just to see one of my chums, one of my business chums down there. So we're just going down there for a couple of days. Hopefully the weather will be reasonable, but of course with Ireland, you can get 4 seasons in one day.
Very much so,
what time of the year it is, so you never quite know. So yes, I'm doing that on Tuesday and coming back on Thursday.
Nice.
And Matt, what are you doing next week?
Working, and working.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Matt. That sounds massively exciting. Yeah, you know, Matt, he likes to pack.
Yeah, no. Every day I'm working. Thursday.
Nick, what are you doing next week?
Work.
Okay, that sounds
very good.
Very
well
exciting.
done, yes.
John, what are you doing next week?
Excellent. Well done.
Thank you for that, John.
Indeed.
And a big thanks to everyone
Actually,
for tuning in this evening.
I am doing something quite cool next week because I'm not on the show next week, sadly, which means you'll be sat in this seat here. So just so that you know, yeah. Why are you looking at me like that? You know what's happening. Because I'm going to see John next Friday.
Oh, am I pushing the buttons next week?
You are, yeah.
So next week, then, we might be live on YouTube at 7 p.m. On YouTube. We might not be. If not, we will get some string and some cups.
Right.
And we will try and do something. Don't panic.
Very good. Okay. Yeah, indeed.
So a big thanks to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening. All the usual members in there. Great to see you all in there. Don't forget as well, thanks to everyone who listens to us as an audio podcast as well each week. Thank you to you as well. And also, don't forget, if you do listen to us as an audio podcast via the glorious iTunes and many of the other podcast streaming platforms, don't forget, if you get a spare 5 minutes, leave us a little review on there because it does help to push us up on the old tables with the podcast streaming platforms. So leave us a little review on there. Thank you very much indeed. And that is about all we've got time for this week. Thank you again to everyone for tuning in. Thanks to our glorious production team. Thanks to John and thanks to Nick as well for putting all the bits and pieces together for the show this week. And thanks to everyone who contributes to the show each week. It's a great help for us all. Thanks to Nev. Thanks to Matt for being in the studio with all the mass tech that he does each week. He won't be here next week, and hopefully I will, but we'll soon find out. So don't forget to join us next Friday, 7 o'clock, hopefully, fingers crossed, here on YouTube for the next episode of Plain Talking UK Podcast. Have a great weekend, whatever you're up to. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.